Hi, welcome to the Excel Gradebook activity. In this activity, we are going to use Microsoft Office Excel to create a student's gradebook. We are going to start by launching Microsoft Excel application. Okay, now we have our spreadsheet. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to change the name of the sheet. You do that by moving the cursor to the bottom left corner and then right clicking and selecting rename from the options. I'm going to name my sheet JHS1. Assuming I have to prepare a gradebook for different levels or different classes, you can use multiple sheets to do that. So if I have another class JHS2, I can do that. If you have more than 3 classes, you can use this insert worksheet function here to add new sheets. You can add as many as you wish. Okay, now I'm back to my JHS1 worksheet. I'm going to quickly type the data we need so we can start entering our formulas. Okay, I have typed some of the data. Now I'm going to take you through some of the formatting steps. In the first row, cell A1, I have Winneba International School. I'm going to highlight up to column M and then click on merge and center. This will move the text to the middle because all the cells from A1 through to M1 have been merged and they are now one cell, and this text is in the center of the cell. I can further format it by increasing the font size as well. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to apply the same formatting to the end of first term results. So merge and center, bold. There we go. Now take note that merge and center works only one row at a time. For this particular cell, I typed index number, but as you can see, the text is longer than the width of the cell. So to make sure the text fits into the cell, I'm going to use the wrap text function. This drops the remaining text to the next line, but all within the same cell. You can apply this whenever you type text that is longer than the cell. You can also expand the cell by moving the cursor to the boundary of the column. This will change the cursor from a white star or plus to a vertical line with two arrows on the left, with one arrow on the left and the right. If you don't want to expand the columns, you can keep the column as it is and then click on wrap text. So I'm going to wrap the text of all the headings. Now the name cell has a very small width, so I'm going to click and expand the width. The same applies to index number. Test 1, assuming test 1 was scored over 20 marks, and test 2 was scored over, let's say, 40 marks. CA1 is going to be the addition of test 1 and test 2. So let me go on and wrap the text for this one. CA1 therefore is going to be 20% assessment. So wrap the text. Assignment 1, let's say, was 50 marks. Mid-semester was also 50 marks. So let's wrap the text. Wrap the text. Assignment 1 and assignment 1 and mid-sem will add up to CA2, which is also going to be another 20%. Can wrap the text. Exam mark. This is the actual exam that the students will be writing. This is usually marked over 100, and out of that we are going to get a 60% score. Then we have the total, which is going to be CA1 plus CA2, which is 40%, plus the exam score, which is 60%. To make our work easier, I would want us to add a new column between CA2 and exam mark, which will be the total CA marks. That should add up to 40%. That is CA1 20% and CA2 20%. To insert a column in an already existing document or spreadsheet, you can move to the column names. Now I want the column to be on the left side of this exam mark. So I'm going to right click the exam mark, and then when I insert, the exam mark is shifted one more column to the right, and then the new column is inserted to the left. Alright, so this is going to be the total CA, which is going to be 40%. Alright, now to make our headings look presentable, I'm going to highlight by clicking the index number cell and then dragging across to the remarks cell. Then in the home menu, I'm going to select center. This will center the text in the middle of the cells. And I'm going to click on the bold. Alright, now let's go on to type the index numbers and the names of the students. Now that we have finished entering our data, we need to start entering our formulas. The first formula we are going to type is for CA1. CA1 forms 20% of the total score. The assessments that make up CA1 are Test 1, which is graded over 20, and Test 2, which is graded over 40. The sum of these tests makes 60. So to get 20 out of that, we have to divide our total of these assessments by 3. Let's start the formula. We click in the cell where we want the formula or where we want the answer to be. Now note that before you type any formula in Excel, you should start with the equal sign. This tells Excel that what you are typing is not data but a formula. Now when adding values in Excel, you may be tempted to type the actual data, in this case 18 and 32, but this is not done. If you want to add values in Excel, use the cell addresses. This is very important because when you change the actual data, the formula will no longer work. But when you use the cell addresses, even after changing the data, the formula will still work. To get the cell address of the first number, we can click on the cell that contains the number. But remember to include brackets to aid you get the correct results. Now we have clicked on the cell that contains the data, so we have to add our addition operator. And we click on the second cell that contains our second data, then we close the brackets. So what we have here is cell C5 plus cell D5. Now whatever this value is, we are going to divide by 3 to get CA1, which will be over 20. After typing the formula, press the enter key. Now we have a number that is for CA1. To apply this formula to the remaining rows, you have to move your cursor, which is now a white cross, to the black dot at the bottom corner of the selected cell. Once you do that, the cursor will change to a black cross. You can double click this dot, or you can click and drag down to apply the formula to the other rows. Now that we have finished CA1, let us move to CA2. CA2 also makes up another 20% of the total 100%. The assessments that make up CA2 are Assignment 1 and Medicine. These add up to 100 marks. What we are going to do is to convert this 100 marks to 20 marks. To convert a number from 100 to 20, we can multiply by 20 and divide by 100, or we can multiply by 0.2. So we want our formula to be in this particular cell, which is H5. Remember, we start with our equal sign again, and then because we want to add the numbers before we divide, it is appropriate to put those two cells in brackets. So the first cell is F5 plus G5. Here I want to divide by 5. So I press the enter key and then I get my CA2 marks. When you move the cursor to the black dots of the selected cell, you can double click or click and drag. Alright, now what we have to do is to calculate the total CA. Total CA is going to be made up of CA1 and CA2. So just like we have done previously, we start with the equal sign. This time we can just click on the cell that contains the first number plus the cell that contains the second number, and then we press enter. Again, you can double click to fill the remainder of the rows. Next formula is exam 60%. The exams was graded over 100 marks. We are going to convert it to 60 marks. To do that, we start with our equal sign and then we click on the cell which contains the first data. This is J5. Excel allows you to multiply that particular cell address by the percentage you want to find. So J5 times 60%. This is the same as typing J5 times 60 divided by 100. Press the enter key and then you get your answer. Click and drag or double click to get the formula applied for the other rows. Next formula we have to type is for the total. The total is made up of 40% total CA and then exam 60%. So again, we start with our equal sign, cell address of the first data value, cell address of the second data value, press enter, select a cell, double click, and then you have the formula applied to the other rows. Now we are going to calculate the grade of the students. Before you can calculate the grade, you need to have a grading scheme. For this activity, we are going to use this grading scheme. Now, the grade formula follows a very simple logic. We use the if decision structure. This is how it goes. You want to find out if the total score of the students is between 80 and 100. If this is true, you display A as the letter grade, and then you can go on and display excellent as the remarks. If this is not the case, you move on to the next bracket and check if the total score is between 70 to 79. If this condition is met, you display B for the grade and then very good for the remark. Again, if this is not true, you move on to check for the next range. If the grade is between 60 and 69, the student gets a C and good as remarks. This follows until the very last range, which is if the total score is between 0 and 39, the student gets an F and the remarks is fail. Let's see how we will type this formula. Remember to always select the cell you want your answer to be in. we want the grade to appear in column M. So we click the first row in column M, which is M5. That's for the first student. So just like any formula, we start with the equal sign. If the total score of the first student, which can be found in the cell L5, is greater than or equal to 80, then we want Excel to display letter grade A. To display letters or any text in a formula, you have to put that letter or text into double quotes. So double quotes, letter grade A, close the double quotes. That is for checking for letter grade A. If this is not the situation, we have to move on to check for B, and then C, and then D, and so on and so forth. So we bring another comma, and then this time we start with another if. If the same cell, which is L5, is greater than or equal to 70, then letter grade B. Remember that if the student gets a number that is equal to or greater than 80, Excel ignores the rest of the formula. But if the first condition is not met, then Excel continues to check the other conditions. Okay, so we have typed for B. If this is not met, then we have to check for C. So if, open brackets, the same cell greater than or equal to 60, then we want to display a C. If not, then we check for D. If cell L5 is greater than or equal to 50, then we display a D. We do the same for E. If L5 greater than or equal to 40, then we display an E. Now, if the student's mark does not meet any of the following conditions, then we assume that the student is below 40. Therefore, without checking for any condition, we put in F as the last value to display if none of these conditions are met. To finish the formula, we have to close all the brackets that we opened. The number of brackets you close should match the opening brackets. Excel makes this easy by coloring the brackets for you. The last bracket is green, so when you close, you get a green. And then we have a purple, and then we have a mauve, and then we have another green, and then finally we have a black. So we have finished closing all the opening brackets. Press enter, and if there's nothing wrong, you get your letter grade. You don't have to continue typing this formula again. You can just double click as we have been doing, or you click and drag, and the formula is applied to the other rows. Now we are going to find the position of each student in the class, or the rank of the students. Remember that the rank is used to find out a student's total score in relation to the other total scores in the class. To do this, we click in the cell we want our rank to be. We have an equal sign, and then we type the keyword rank. We open a bracket. Now, as you do this, you realize that Excel gives you guide. After the rank and the opening bracket, Excel expects a number. Now be careful not to type the actual number, which is what is in L5, but to use the cell address. So we click and we get a cell address. Now we want to check for this particular number within the range of L5 through to L14. Excel has a unique way of updating your formulas to match the corresponding rows. But for this particular rank formula, we don't want Excel to update the formula for us. We want to keep the range of students static, so that after checking for the cell L5 within the range of L5 to L14, we check cell L6 within the range of L5 to L14 to make sure Excel does not update our cells for us or our rows for us. We are going to use the dollar sign to make the cells static. So after L5, we bring a comma and then we specify the range. The range is L5 to L14. But like I said earlier, we don't want Excel to update this range. So we add a dollar sign before the L and a dollar sign before the 5. This reads as L5 without the dollar signs. And then the last cell in the range is L14. So again, a dollar sign before the L, a dollar sign before the 14. You can see Excel drawing a green rectangle around the range. Now close your bracket and press the enter key. So you get the position for the first student. Click and drag down or double click to apply to the remainder of the students. We have the positions calculated now. Now the very last formula we need to type is for remarks. We have seen the grading scheme. If the student gets an A, the remark should be excellent. B is very good. C is good. D is average, and so on up to fail. The easiest way of typing this formula is to use the same formula used for the grade. So I'm going to click on any of the cells which has a grade formula, and then I'll come to the formula bar and highlight the whole formula. After doing this, I'm going to click on the copy function. Then to make sure that the formula, which is now active, as we can see, is not automatically updated, I'll press the escape key to deactivate the formula and then go to the remarks column. Click the cell I want the remark to be. Come back to the formula bar and click, and then paste the formula I copied. So the formula reads the same. But remember that with remarks, we don't want to display A or B or C. These are for the letter grades. Where we have A should be excellent. Where we have B should be very good, because the range is the same. So I'm going to highlight this A and change it to excellent. Then I'm going to make this B very good, C changes to good, D becomes average, E is pass, and F is fail. After doing this, you press the enter key and the remarks appear. Now click and then apply to the remaining rows. So this is the remarks formula as we have applied it. Now, to make your work more presentable, it is advisable to add borders. To add borders, you simply have to highlight the whole data you have typed. Go to the home menu if you are not already there, and then in the font section of the ribbon, look for borders. Click the arrow beside it, and then you see the drop down. Now click on all borders to apply borders to every cell that you have highlighted. If your data is not already centered, you can highlight the cells you want to center and then click on the center. Now we are finished with our formulas, but we need to add some form of statistics to make whoever is looking at the grades. Now we need to add some information about the grades. I'm talking about the statistics. To do this, we can simply below the data type the grade, the number, that is the number of students who had that grade, and then here we type the letter grades as we have them. You can highlight these two columns, put a border around it, and center. Now what we are going to do is we want to give a summary of the grades. So we want to put the number of students who got A and B and C and D up to F. To do this, we are going to use the count if formula. So in this particular cell, we want to find the number of students who got an A. We start with the equal sign and then the keyword count if. Now the help we are getting here says we should enter a range. The range is from M5 through to M14. But remember, we don't want the range to keep on increasing as we drag the formula down. So we have to add a dollar sign before the cell addresses. So $M $5 to $M $14. Now, criteria. What are we counting? What do we want to count within this range? We want to count the letter A. The letter A has also been typed under the grade column here. That particular cell is cell C17. So instead of typing A into double quotes like this, we can simply refer to cell C17 as it also contains the letter A. So C17. This time we do not add the dollar sign because when we drag down, we want the formula to update this particular cell to C18 where the B is, and then C19 where C is, C20 where D is, but the range will not change. So we'll be counting for A in this range, which is here. Then we'll be counting for B in that same range. And then we'll count for C in the same range, and so on. So all I need to do is close the bracket and press the enter key. So the formula says we have 4 A's. Let's find out if this is true. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. So let's apply to the remaining rows. We have done that. 3 B's. 1, 2, 3. Okay. The formula seems to be correct. Now to verify if all the letters have been represented, we can have total here. This will be the total number of students. So what we are going to do is we are going to highlight these cells that have the values in them and then put their sum here. Another way of adding cells is to use the auto sum function. You can find the auto sum function in the home menu and then in the editing section of the ribbon. The auto sum function is the default function that is activated when you click on this button. If you want other functions, you can use the drop down arrow here to see other functions: average, count, max, min, and we have a lot more functions when you click here. Currently what we want is the sum of the cells we have highlighted. The sum will be displayed in the next empty cell after the text or after the cells you have highlighted. In this case, it will display in this cell D23. So click on sum and then we have 10. This corresponds to the 10 students that we have. So we have accounted for every student. Now sometimes just this summary is not enough. You want to go a step further to use charts to summarize or illustrate the breakdown of your results. So to insert a chart, what we are going to do is we are going to highlight the grade and the number down to the very last letter grade. Then we will go to the insert menu, click in the ribbon. We are going to look for the chart section. Here we are. These are various charts you can use to represent data. Let's start by selecting the column. When you click on the column, you have different styles of columns. For this activity, let's select a 3D column, 3D clustered column. So just click and then you realize that the chart is drawn for you automatically. You can move the chart around or you can even resize to fit the space that you want. So our letter grades A, B, C, D, E, F, and then the numbers that correspond to those letter grades. If you don't want to use the column, you can click on the chart, move to the ribbon. You see change chart type. If you don't see it, make sure you have selected the design menu, and you should now see it. So when you click on the change chart type, you can select a lot of other types of charts. You have so many charts. I'm sure you can find a chart that will match whatever presentation you want to show. This brings us to the end of the gradebook activity. I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you for watching.